Conversations from the Cave is a raw self-help podcast dedicated to discussing men's issues. From pornography to parenting, from religion to real life, from learning to loving. We discuss the real issues that affect real men every day. Join us each week for powerful, revealing Conversations from the Cave. Now your host, Kurt Kennedy.
Welcome to Conversations from the Cave. I'm your host, Kurt Kennedy. It's a pleasure having you here again on this wonderful Sunday, as we do it each and every Sunday at noon. We're joined in studio by our panel members, as we are each and every time we get together. To my right, I'd like to give a nod to Mustang. Mustang, can you give a shout out for us, please?
Hey, this is CJ Mustang, Mercy Over Judgment.
Yes.
I had to do it like Nola.
Right. And to my left, we have Brian B.A. Armstrong. Brian, can you give us a shout out, sir?
Hello, B.A. here. Brian Armstrong, changes lives one word at a time.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, this is so awesome to have you guys in studio again tonight, as we do it each and every week. Tonight, this subject, as I shared with you just before we came on air, is one that was brought to us by women. There are women who listen to our shows, and apparently the men who play the shows in their homes have women who have been listening. And we got 3 requests for this topic. And so I'm going to congeal it into one podcast, but we got 3 questions. One is, what happens when a man loses his sex drive? What can a woman do? Number 2, what if it's the man who's not interested and isn't taking care of the home fires? And the last one is, what about medical problems associated with poor function, erectile dysfunction? Needless to say, this is a slightly more complex topic to cover, because it's, first of all, it's broad. It's broad, and it's not easily covered probably in one podcast. Number 2, it's the untalked about condition that affects so many people that it becomes difficult to even talk about it. But we've talked about some pretty amazing things on this show, including pornography and anger management and feminism and so forth. So why should this be any different? So I'm going to, first of all, toss it out here, using a terrible analogy. I'm going to go ahead and toss the first question out to you, Mustang. Mustang, there are a lot of women who are concerned when their men lose interest in physical relations with them, or they've lost or lack stamina. Is there advice that you can give to women who have an uninterested man, or maybe some questions to ask?
Yeah, and that this is something I will go ahead and say for the ladies that are listening to the sound of my voice. This is not something I've dealt with, unfortunately, so you got to take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I will say this, because I know what I get from my wife. I know what I give to my wife, and vice versa. I know what she needs. I know she knows what I need, et cetera, et cetera. So just taking some of the things that might be missing out of there, I would begin to kind of compile a list. And that's what me and my wife do whenever we're faced with like a big circumstance or big situation. We just have no idea what to do. We just sit down and we make a pros and cons list. But for this particular situation, I would say, okay, if he's not, making love to you or seems uninterested lately, then I would just kind of compile a list of some of the times when he is. Whenever you do notice that he is interested in you, what are you guys doing? What is the situation? Maybe, what is that flame that gets him going? I'm just going to give an example. If you've been with him, you feel like it's every 3 months or every quarter, every 6 months, something like that. When you do finally do it, is it an anniversary? Is it after you've begged him a million times? Or is it you're wearing something? Or is it because you did something special for him that he really liked? I would go as far as to just kind of compile those lists and then analyze that. But even before that, one step before that, talk to him if you haven't already. I'm presuming you've already taken that step, but sometimes we need to be reminded we need to plug the computer in, or we need to hit the on button. So talk to him. If you haven't already spoken with him about this, hey, listen, I feel like I'm not getting it. Is everything okay? Oh yeah, actually, I didn't realize XYZ is going on. So that's what I would say. The biggest 2 things right now, definitely talk to him. And then, after assuming you've talked to him, compile a list of when you guys do engage and when he is drawn to you. and then kind of just see and tally up, when was that? Was it a dance? Was it a movie? Was it a this? When were those times?
That's an excellent answer. I think that was probably one of the more brilliant answers I've heard, given the fact that I think a lot of detective work is really very helpful because it takes away the assumptions. A lot of times you can, if you're writing times down or you're writing what's going on in your life during the times when the most positive response is happening. Those are things that I think are really crucial because you don't guess. The other thing that you really, I think is really critical or really important is just making sure that you communicate and ask the question, what's going on here? Why hasn't thus and so happened? BA, do you have any additional thoughts? You suggested that you might agree with that.
Well, like Chris said, I really hadn't had this problem, Evidence is, we had one kid, kids so close together, as I say that, like Chris said, take what I say with a grain of salt because I really haven't experienced this, but the biggest thing, what Chris was saying is it's about communication, be open. And the only other thing I would add to that, and remember I'm a believer, is I've had it shared with me many times, is a believer, what you want to do is look at people with Christ's eyes, which is Jesus Christ, and that's how you view people. And, I'm not going to go into all the details, but you want to look that up. Jesus Christ is his name, and you look at those details and how he viewed people. And then you use that as the reflection of the other person. Look through their eyes, which is really difficult to do, but try to see where, they're coming from if this is an issue. So use it as an objective thing to allow the man to see what he needs to see for the woman, and then vice versa, because that is a key point through communication and other things.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think your point is well taken. Communication is key, and having the desire to look from another person's perspective to see if there's anything you can do to enhance the potential for a positive outcome. Excellent, excellent. Gentlemen, should a woman automatically assume that if a man is not interested in her sexually, that he's having an affair? Point blank question.
In this day and age, that's so hard to answer, but the quick and simple answer, no, you should not do that. You shouldn't assume that because he's not sexually interested in you. There could be tons of problems, and knowing men, we sometimes are a little embarrassed, or we may be very proud to share certain things. I can say this. I believe that the effects of pornography are lasting far beyond that of just watching two other people have sex, and it being immoral. I believe that they are far reaching into a sexual realm where that could have a problem with erectile dysfunction. I easily believe that.
Absolutely.
So that's something to think about, over time, if a man's been doing this and these things are stacking on top of each other, and really think about this too, ladies. If your man, and that's something to consider too, if your man is watching pornography or has in the past, he's got all these, pornography, a woman may think of it if she hasn't really known or visited, sites, which we highly recommend you do not. But if you have,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But if for some reason you haven't, there's not like it's just two people having consensual sex and it's a random, regular, standard looking woman like myself or like friends around me. No. You can pick bust size, butt size, neck size, head size, hair color, eye color. You can pick anything you want. It's literally a buffet. So that being said, if this man has, you see what I'm saying? If this man has had all these choices of the best, he's had the cheat codes, and so to speak, as far as, what he desires in a woman, it doesn't mean that he desires you any less, but seeing these things may nullify or take a little bit of the edge off of that sex drive that he may have always had. Plus, combined with other things like age or ejaculation, self-ejaculation, things like that, that could all play a part.
Yeah, I think you've really made two valid points. The first is the impact of pornography. We've talked about this over several podcasts, and some of them published, some as yet unpublished. But this is a huge factor, mainly because of the impact that it has on the brain in terms of secreting a lot of hormone and continuously, overstimulating those cascades, which help men to become aroused. So when those things are super heightened all the time through watching pornography, regular activities just don't raise the level of function. So there aren't those neurotransmitters there to provide the stimulus necessary to perform normally. That's part of the pathophysiology of it. We also know, just having done a little bit of research on this for the show, that the Massachusetts male aging study reports a general prevalence, about 50% of men have some form of erectile dysfunction. 52% to be exact. It demonstrated that the increasing prevalence occurs in men after age 40. Approximately 40% of men are affected by that. We also know that the decrease in testosterone production through the 30s and 40s is a main indicating factor for that. And then, I guess around age 70 or so, about 70% of men have age-related, or what we call age-related erectile dysfunction. Now, the thing that's usually associated with this are things like obesity, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes. Not directly cigarette smoking, but cigarette smoking contributes to the other. Vascular problems, and those result in poor performance just on a completely physiologic disease basis. So the most common occurrence are vascular diseases, and the second are these cascades, which are numbed because of the overstimulation of the brain during pornography abuse. So those are things that impact function. It's sort of like with drug addicts. Once you burn out those neurosensors, it takes a while for the brain to recover. Now, switching gears.
I want to comment on that
too
after.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to comment, and just so the ladies get it, because listen, he's a doctor, so sometimes he says some words. People are like, "What is he saying?"
Oh,
okay,
dear.
This may help. This may help. Okay, so imagine like an ice cream, and you get that vanilla ice cream, and it's the first time you've ever had it, and it's fantastic. Well, then imagine, you get sprinkles on top of that. And then imagine you get a scoop, maybe you get another scoop of chocolate on top of that. And then maybe you get some drizzle of fudge, and then you get some strawberry on top of that. And then you get, nuts and more sprinkles. And before you know it, you got whipped cream, cherry on top of all that. So every time you go, you're getting this huge, amazing, fantastic, super awesome ice cream. Well, then you go back and somebody's like, "Hey, do you want this?" That sounds terrible. Do you want this vanilla? Which is fantastic. It's ice cream. It's fantastic. I'm not saying it's not all that, but if you can get the idea, then it's like, but I just had all of this amazing stuff. It's just now it's difficult to come all the way back down. It can happen for sure.
Sure.
Me and my wife have actually had to backtrack our way down from some things, but it definitely can happen.
Sure, absolutely.
Did that just come out of left field?
No. No. I think your analogy is great. That the whole idea of once you've had a lot of fixings, it's really difficult to just go back to having straight meat and potatoes, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of women who have kind of approached our show with this question, I think the three main areas that seem to be areas of concern are, well, if he's not interested in me, then what am I doing wrong? So I'm going to throw that out to the panel. Are there things that women do wrong that just turn guys off? I mean, let's broach that topic as well. I mean, are the ladies killing it for themselves, or is this just a guy's issue? Or, I mean, are there some collaborative things that can be done? I'm just throwing it out there.
BA Nola, y'all want to hit that?
Oh, hey, Kurt. Wow, the complications of relationships is where I think, this is stepping into, because every area of a relationship, especially because, as I was thinking about, with the whole affair thing, is, and this goes for single, married too, is you got to get to know the person, because you got to learn to trust them. And that's why a lot of us, let me give just to myself, my personal truth is that, it took a while, approximately 4 years to get to know my wife, for her to trust me, to know me. And in that brought out truth in me, to share with her and to be open to,